Hello and welcome back, guys. We're now starting a new story, Knights and Magics and Quirks, written by Lotus Moonveil. You can find author's profile link in the description. Let's begin. Knights and Magic and Quirks. Centuries ago, after a 2-year plague and a lot of medical advancement, someone decided to mess with the unknown. This person, now known as Ultimate Idiot, decided to mess with dark magic and caused the change. The change was a massive earthquake destroying almost everything mankind had created over a few thousand years. Once the earth was basically reset, pillars of red light formed and the chaos began. The BLD lights created creatures we now know as demon beasts. These creatures vary in looks and abilities, with their strength being visible in their size. The bigger they are, the more dangerous they are. Though I am betting that you are thinking that this is the biggest change, but you are wrong. The biggest change that we know for sure is what happened to us. After the BLD lights did their job, they vanished, for the most part. After about a decade of humans being slowly killed and devoured by demon beasts, something incredible happened. A couple groups of people had created the starts of forts and had kids which would reveal the second part of the BLD lights. A bunch of kids turned 4, and at the full moon after that birthday the lights returned. They surrounded the 4-year-olds and gave them power. Some became elves or dwarves. Others learned how to use magic with special tools, some didn't change, or got a special ability called a quirk. Elves have some long bunny-like ears, tall slender bodies, and have catalyst crystals in their bodies that let them cast magic without tools. The elves are strong magic users but are very unlikely to gain a quirk or be physically strong. Dwarves are basically the polar opposite of elves. Dwarves are stronger than most humans, almost always have a quirk, can't use magic at all, are stocky, and can forge metal and other materials as if they are playing with clay during a warm day. Now to explain what catalyst crystals are. They are basically the hearts of demon beasts, can be mined from underground, are used by humans to cast magic, and used to power stuff. I can't go into all their uses, but I can tell you the biggest known one, the Silhouette Knights. Silhouette Knights are giant metal humanoid creations we use to fight bigger demon beasts. They have been called mechas, robots, and zords by the generation from the change because they need pilots. Elves, humans, and dwarves can pilot them. Most just use swords to cut up the demon beasts but can use magic spells, which the Silhouette Knights amplify, to destroy the creatures. If quirks are compatible with Silhouette Knight technology, they can be used through them and boosted as well. Most longing to be Silhouette pilots, grand casters, heroes, or knight smiths. This world may be crazy and greatly unpredictable, but it is home. We have created countries since then, and most of us have no trouble making a living in this world. Another odd thing is that thanks to stuff we created before it all, we stop aging at 25 and don't die of old age. The only way for us to die is to be killed in battle, murdered, or to run out of time. Shoot, I haven't mentioned time, have I? From our BRTH we have lights in our arms that red 1 year and glow a soft green. Once we hit 25, that number begins to count down, and when it hits 0 we die. There are multiple ways to gain time, so we don't have to worry about zeroing out. If you work, win lotteries, or gamble your life, literally, you can get time from others. Some people in very high positions have millions of years saved up. Most are royalty, while Silhouette pilots, knight smiths, grand casters, and heroes of the highest degree have a chance to get that rich. Right now, other than the 8 kingdoms royalty, there are 5 very rich people. All Might the strongest global hero, Sir Galahad the best knight pilot, Merlin the immortal wizard, Ernesti the creative knight smith and pilot, and Midas the merchant king. Each one is the best in their field, except Ernesti, since he is a strong grand caster and knight pilot on top of being a knight smith of the highest degree. Over their years of serving the world and the 8 kingdoms, they have gotten lots of time. I am pretty sure you all have had your fill of the boring parts of my world's history. Well, strap in and get ready for my story. My name is Izuku Midoriya, and this is the story of how I became a true immortal. Izuku's birthday and present day. Sorry about this chapter not coming out sooner. I have been working practically non-stop since I posted the history chapter. Also, this will be a long chapter as I put down the very OP foundations down for Izuku. I hope you all enjoy. I run in and bounce on my mom's bed. Mom, time to get up. It's almost time for the full moon to reach its peak. This gets her up and we both head outside and rush to the park a couple blocks away. On our way there we run into Kaken and a bunch of other families with 4-year-olds ready for their BLD light blessing. Every month there are multiple families that come to their park or stay at home for this rite of passage. Technically I am still 3 till exactly midnight, but I might get my blessing tonight. We all get into a big clearing and the parents form a big circle around us as we go inside of it and wait. I chatted with Kaken, with us both chatting about what blessing we hope we get. Soon it hit midnight and we all began to glow red. Each person experiences their blessing differently. Most just instantly get their blessing or have to answer a few questions, but some get much more detailed. I was in an office, like the principal's at my preschool. After looking around confused I saw something, not quite my principal nor a ghost, sitting in front of me and behind the desk. They didn't notice me at first as they checked a big scroll. When they noticed me it seemed shocked. "Oh, hello there. You weren't on the list, what's your name?" "Izuku Midoriya." "Where exactly am I?" This made Mr. Energy, as I call him, laugh some. "I guess this is your blessing test. You're the first to ever see me like this. After causing the change I sacrificed my body and soul to give humanity a fighting chance. Now what do you longing your future to be?" I kinda bounced in front of him as I excitedly replied, "I want to be a hero like the great. I want to save lives, help humanity set up new towns, and make awesome silhouette nights." Mr. Energy laughed softly, "You are very ambitious and pure of heart. Not once did you even think about time while you answered me. I am impressed and I will give you the ultimate blessing. Since you weren't on the list and the purest of heart ever, you now are a unique." Golden light surrounded me and I was back in the park. Everyone else had already gone, leaving just Mom and I there. I quickly ran over to her and hugged her when I noticed a few changes right off the bat. My ears were much more sensitive and bunny-like, I knew the basics of magic and blacksmithing, and I was a bit more muscular than before. "What took you so long? You were in there for almost an hour and near the end, instead of blue, purple, green, or red near the end, you were gold. I better explain the colors real quick before we go further. The rankings from worst to best is red, pink, green, purple, blue, yellow, gold, and white. The better the color the more powerful your blessing was. Kaken was an uncommon blue, which 1 out of 50 get. I got gold, which is closer to 1 out of. What made the rankings even better was that is you were a purple or higher, you had a chance of a second blessing. When you turn second, blessings are rare as hell. Even the white rank, 1 out of 200,000, only have 1 in 2 million chance for one. I told her about Mr. Energy as we walked home. The next day at preschool people looked at me confused. They asked what I was and I just shrugged until the teacher called me a hybrid monstrosity. After that I was called a freak all through elementary and junior high. What they don't know is that I have 2 jobs I've been working for a long time. My first job is one just for us elves, and I am the youngest ever to work at the Silhouette Night Ether Engine Factory. These mithril-coated engines SCK in ether and change it into mana. There are big ones that are bigger than dwarves, but there are smaller ones too. The smaller ones are used for silhouette gear. They are like personal armor that boosts strength, speed, and some have special tools. Sometimes people call them discount Iron Man suits, whatever that means. My second job is to make the silhouette gear, weapons, and magic rods for people. I am too young to work on the silhouette nights and to take the classes required. The best part of the job, in my opinion, is being able to test out the stuff I make if it is small or light enough for me. Fortunately, since I'm half dwarf, barely anything is too heavy for me. The looks I got when I was 6 and easily swinging a 50 pounds battle axe, with one hand no less, were priceless. While I worked, my friend, Kaken, became a big egotistical bully. He was blessed as a dwarf with an explosive quirk. He lies saying he can just summon explosions on his palms. His quirk is that he sweats a nitroglycerin-like substance and he can use his natural electrical current to spark it if he is touching it. There are two small side effects with his quirk: he always smells faintly of caramel and he has a hair trigger temper. I am his main victim since I'm both elf and dwarf. Anyways, let's jump to the present here. I'm done remembering the beatings I got from him. It's the last day of school and I'm just sitting at my desk drawing some new designs for weapons, support gear, and silhouette knights. The teacher is going on about some sort of job placement tests before just tossing them away, saying something like, "I know you all are planning on being heroes or silhouette pilots." As a result, elves made their fingers glow, dwarves flexed or used their quirks, and humans would do magic with their magic rods or show off their quirk. 5 4 3 2 1 Don't lump me with these extras, teach. They will be lucky to be a sidekick to a D-list hero. Kakin yelled as he stood on his desk. I rolled my eyes and covered my ears, as the other elves did as well, as he began yelling. The teacher then F up greatly. They said, "That's right, you and Midoriya plan to go to UA. You both know it is a very hard school to get into." I understand the phrase, my BLD ran cold. Luckily my reflexes were faster than him. Freak. Bang. Of course I used magic to disperse the explosion, but it was still very loud initially. After the smoke cleared, I glared at him, happy now. You destroyed my favorite backpack with that explosion. Do you have any idea how much time it cost just for the materials? What? 2 seconds. That made the entire class laugh. While they laughed, I grabbed my now charred backpack and emptied all the stuff out of it. True, it was mostly notebooks and pencils, but there were tools, gum, machine pieces, some crystal fibers, and a smiting hammer worth 2 years in there as well. With my bag emptied, I walked over to a spell crystal used to show spell results. May I use this to display the results of the appraisal spell? With a smirk he did, thinking the backpack couldn't be worth much more than a 2-minute bag. I began to channel the magic and looked at the teacher. Can this handle the Merchant King's appraisal? I don't want to accidentally shatter another display spell crystal. He scoffed and motioned for me go get on with it. Everyone knows the basic appraisal spell, but few know Midas the Merchant King's version. Fortunately I am one of those fortunate to know it. The results of this shut everyone up as their jaws dropped. I am so glad I recorded that moment in a memory crystal, as it was priceless. Some of the info I uncovered surprised me a lot, as I was told they were of a lesser rank. Some was so shocking I had to recast to make sure I wasn't seeing things. Item, backpack owner, Izuku Midoriya. Materials used, warhog hide, rank A, tanned and treated by owner. Collected by Merlin. Value, 100 years for quality, 50 years for Merlin-based collectors. Demon spider thread, rank A, thread was collected, weaved, and treated by owner. Value, 50 years quality. Possessed lion fur, rank C, collected by owner. Treated by Midas. Value, 10 months for quality, 20 years for Midas-based collectors. Catalyst crystal, rank A. First artificially created crystal. Made by owner. Value, unable to calculate. Mithril, value, 10 months worth. Steel clasps, value, 1 week. Total value, unknown. After a few minutes of silence I was the first to speak. Wait, that woman was Merlin and the gold-haired dude was Midas. Why didn't anyone at work tell me? I quickly put my stuff back into my backpack, which seemed to snap Teach back to reality. Okay, now Katsuki, please apologize to Izuku for damaging his property and hope he doesn't charge you with a felony. Kakin apologized reluctantly, but I accepted it. Teacher then sighed, now remember everyone, tonight is your guys' coming-of-age ceremony. Please be dressed nicely and I've got some surprising news about it. He pulled out a piece of paper and read it out loud. This coming-of-age ceremony will be held in the Colosseum and with 10 different schools from the nearby 5 nations. Due to the occurrence of 2 different lunar events, this will be the biggest ceremony for a few thousand years. Tonight is a BLD moon and the illusion of double moon at the same time. We hope that this rare event will create many second blessed. Second blessed. I groaned and slumped in my seat. Not another ceremony. I'm sick of parties. My classmates either glared or looked at me confused until the teacher laughed. Oh yeah, don't both your jobs and your mom celebrate your birthday and when you get promoted? My reply was a nod and me running out when the bell rang, but I still heard people ask about my jobs. Third-person POV. As Izuku sprinted out, the teacher was flooded with questions until he activated his quirk, making sound vanish from the room. Be quiet and I might be able to answer you all. Now Izuku is currently a rank A apprentice at both of his jobs. He is the youngest ever at the Ether Engine Factory and the local Silhouette Night and Gear Factory. We checked the other 7 kingdoms and he is the youngest ever to be admitted and raised to a rank most don't get to until. Katsuki growled, how is the freak able to do that? I bet he bribed his way in. This made the teacher laugh. He didn't bribe his way in. He is a golden blessed and a unique like the 5 greats. He actually is above All Might and Ernesti, who are blue blessed. Anyways, go home and get ready. Since you all are purple or higher, you might be second blessed tonight. The resulting noise from everyone rushing to leave was deafening to any elves in a mile radius. When the room was empty, he pulled out a crystal phone and called the great when. Someone picked up said, Izuku just found out how valuable his bag is. You guys need to be more careful with stuff you give him. Also Midas, did you teach him your appraisal? Wait, you didn't. But he just used it. The teacher sends a picture of the results and both Merlin and Midas are jealous since their appraisal spells aren't that thorough. After talking a while, the teacher hangs up and laughs. Izuku Midoriya, you are an interesting one. I wonder what your future holds. Coming of age ceremony. I walked home from school with a small smile. Just seeing them react to the appraisal results made my day. Deciding to head to a nearby shop to buy stuff, I took an odd path under a bridge. About halfway through the tunnel I heard a sickening sound. It was a mix of sludge squeezing through a tube and sludge slamming into the floor. When the smell of sewage hit my nose, I turned around and glared. You better not think about attacking me. If you even try to, I will turn you into a freezer pack. The sludge monster laughed before he launched himself at me, as if you can. Now roll over and become my new meat suit. I let him get close before I exhaled mana-laced, super chilled, super-sized breath of cold air. Before you could say, sewer idiot was a sludge cycle. I warned you, Stinky. After a few seconds of me trying to pry sludge cycle from the road, All Might showed up. I am what happened to the villain. I waved from the side of it. I am sorry, he attacked me so I froze him. All Might walked over and looked my work over. How fast did you cast such a complex spell? Wait. Did you use your quirk illegally? I chuckle some. I used mana to super freeze him for a second. Using mana, I turned my breath into a subarctic breeze. All Might was shocked for a little bit before he pried the slime off the ground. Thank you, young one. I better turn him in. Wait, dwarf body, elf ears, unusually strong magic. Are you Izuku Midoriya? I nodded. Yes, I am. You've heard of me. He laughed and patted my head. Yes, I have. The others of the 5 have been interested in you. Now get home. Don't you have a ceremony to get ready for? I groaned. Don't remind me. This caused him to laugh more before I pulled out a notebook. I hand him a pen so he can sign a page. He quickly does and jumps away without any problem. With the fiasco over, I continued walking and stretched only to get a hammer thrown at me. Without a second thought I caught it. Good try, Thor. Maybe try it without the lightning crackling around you. I threw it back, knocking the dwarf back a couple feet from the speed of hammer. He nodded as he caught his breath as I got into my sector of town. Mom, I'm home and I just found out the true value of my backpack. From the kitchen I hear a loud sigh as she kept making supper. Didn't I tell you to quit yelling, freak? I dodged the empty beer bottle that my mom's current boyfriend launched at me. After giving him a half-butted apology, I headed to the kitchen. "Hey hun, how was school today?" I hugged my mom and showed her the recording I made of everyone's faces and the actual price of my bag. After a couple seconds of stunned silence from Mom, I was yanked backwards by the boyfriend with his hand around my throat. "Give me this bag, freak. With it I can pay off my debt." What happened next scared my mom and I as we didn't expect it. BLD red light came off of my body around his hand and surrounded him before we could even blink. The light made him let go of me and began to warp his body and quirk. The first thing we noticed was he was now a very salty girlfriend. I'm not going to describe her, but basically beach blonde bimbo. After she, looked herself over, she tried to use her quirk for kinda funny results. Her original quirk was living weaponry, which let them form weapons from their body. Her usual thing was knife fingers or a katana, but this time they formed into foam weapons. After a couple attempts at making weapons, she called the police on me and smirked. "I am going to claim you stole my backpack and then used your quirk illegally. Bye-bye, freak." As she said that, I pointed to the crystal I used to record everyone's reactions to the bag's worth. "What about that crystal?" I smirked as the police warped in behind her. "The videos on it show me showing my classmates its worth and every single abusive thing you've done to me and my mom. Luckily I got your transformation on it too, beach." As she tried to grab it, the police cuffed her and warped her away. "What am I to do with the golden troublemaker?" the purple mist-looking officer asked as the yellow parts that are his eyes narrowed. "Hi Uncle Kurojiri, sorry about this," I said as I hugged him gently. He laughed and hugged me back. "What is it with you lately? You're like a trouble magnet right now. Yesterday a demon beast broke in and attacked you, today a sludge villain got frozen by you, and now that crazy beach. Who was she anyways?" I tensed up as Mom didn't know about the first two and I knew my goose was more than cooked. "Izuku, why did you not tell me about the beast and the villain?" "There is no league of villains, but there will be bad guys and monsters obviously. Before someone asks, I have not read the manga or seen any of season." I slowly turned to my mom and fearfully answered, "It was an hour-old baby pig beast that couldn't hurt a fly, and I was just about to tell you when she, attacked me just now." Mom relaxed some and looked at my neck. "There's some odd red sludge here." She wiped it off, resulting in it becoming dust on the paper towel and a call over Uncle Kurojira's cop radio saying the girlfriend is now a boyfriend again. "Izuku, what is your quirk?" My mom and I both stiffened and looked at Uncle Kurojiri slowly. "It has been almost 12 years and I never went in to test for a quirk." "I don't know, I was never tested." My uncle released a mix of a groan of annoyance and an angry growl before warping all three of us to a quirk testing office. "Sorry for the sudden warping, but Izuku Midoriya is way overdue to be tested." Needless to say, as we waited, Mom and I were both scolded hardcore by Uncle. I was quickly brought back and tested. My quirk is called Fighter Breaker. Basically it will weaken a quirk so they can't do anything above bruising and give them a body that will destroy their fighting style. It requires touch and can be forcefully broken like Mom did, removing the residue. They don't know how long I can make it last or what happens if they adjust to their new body. I might find out soon if Kaken finds out I have a quirk. After getting my quirk registered, we warped home, ate supper, and watched some TV until it was time. Uncle and Mom went to their seats in the audience and I headed to mine in the middle of the Coliseum with my classmates. The elves from all over the stadium kept telling my classmates to shut up as they all were very loud. After the 76th elf they finally shut up and I glared, "About time, now behave and I might answer your questions later." Then the ceremony began. A teacher from each school read tales from before, during, and after the Great Change. By the time they finished it was almost midnight and most of the audience was asleep. Right before midnight they all yelled, "You are all now adults." I then blinked and I was back in the odd room from when I was 4. Mr. Energy laughed, "Hello again, Izuku. Well, since you are here I will give you a lot of boosts. So how has your life been?" I caught him up some and thanked him for my blessing. He just waved it off and I was back in the Colosseum. Well, more like above it and just floating there. After a little bit I figured out one of my new quirks and warped back to my seat apologizing for somehow floating. Once the crowd quit muttering, my teacher spoke into the microphone, "We would like all second blessed to come to the stage, especially the white blessed." I was curious who was the white blessed. As Kaken, a handful of my classmates, I walked to the stage with handfuls from each school doing the same. The other schools went first with the highest anyone getting was a double yellow. Kaken walked up after glaring at me when he was blue gold. It wasn't until I got onto the stage when I realized I was the gold white blessed. I froze in place when I realized it. I don't mean metaphorically, I literally surrounded myself in ice in shock. Of course everyone was stunned before I thawed myself. Looks like I have to return to the quirk dock. I hope they don't get mad. Knights and Magic and Quirks. When the coming of age ceremony was over, Uncle Kurojiri warped my mom and I to the Quirk Center again. As we waited my results, the Great Five were having a meeting in their tower. According to history, it's a replica of a leaning tower of Pisa. Or was it pizza? It doesn't help most history books were destroyed. Before you ask, I only heard of the meeting afterwards. I don't even know what they were talking about. The meeting, warning, writing style change, Merlin, he is the one we need. We need to grab him and train him ourselves. Slams clenched fist on table causing some jiggle. Physics Ernesti, shaking his head no, let him learn at his own pace. It will be a few hundred years before the event you foresaw will happen. You're immortal but needs patience. Midas, All Might, and Sir Galahad just watch as they drink hot chocolate. Merlin, fine, but he needs the advanced books ASAP. He is the last hope. All Might, holding back Ernesti with one finger. Merlin, you need to calm down some. He will learn it all at his pace or not at all. Remember Arthur. You pushed him so far he called you the bossiest beach ever. Sir Galahad sighs at the mention of his friend while Merlin gives in and sits in her chair. Midas, let's bend the rules some. Let him join UA and give him the option to take any classes he wants. Even if it's for a higher grade, let him. Sir Galahad, fine, but he must be forced to learn about weapons. Swords, daggers, crossbows, axes, and more. If he doesn't know how to use and make them, he may not get to his full battle potential for when his mana gets low. They all argue and make a plan for Izuku all day and night. Izuku POV. After a couple hours, a doctor rushed Mom, Uncle Kurojiri, and I into a room where the doctor looked worried. I have good news and bad news. Izuku doesn't have a quirk anymore. It has completely vanished, but we found this. He pulls out an X-ray and shows that my body has tons of tiny catalyst crystals throughout my muscles, bones, and even my skin. The one I had originally gotten when I was 4 was gone though. He is literally able to mess with reality on a small scale thanks to these catalyst crystals. At most, elves have one between their lungs, which varies in size. The bigger or the more dense it is, the more mana they have. These all are too dense to read, so basically unlimited mana, and they can mimic any quirk. To handle the energy, your entire body has become much tougher, and I do mean much tougher. I doubt a mithril blade can even scrape you now. As we heard this, my mom and uncle were frozen, but I wanted to test it. I used some mana to copy my uncle's quirk, removed the physical changes and began warping around the room and home. Once I was done, I copied mom's and the doctor's before calming down. Sorry, I couldn't resist trying it out. This is amazing and kinda broken. I promise not to use this ability like crazy. Mom and the doctor put me down as quirkless on my paperwork, saying the second blessing destroyed it and reinforced my body instead. We headed home and all went to bed even though it was 8 in the morning. A couple hours later I wake up to see my mom's ex over me with his right hand's fingers as knives. I was startled, making him smirk. His gloved left hand was choking me. I'm going to free your mom of you and act like the perfect support friend. Because of you she broke up with me, so now that your quirk won't affect me you're dead. I glared at him in annoyance, causing him to swing to kill me. What happened next was funny to me but painful to him. His blades snapped and lodged themselves into the wall. I then warped him, the blades, and I into the nearby police department. He and I were promptly arrested until I explained what happened. Mom came flying to the police station and got me out once she got the call I warped there and got arrested. Ex-boyfriend was fined, incarcerated, and we decided to sue him. His dad is rich, so why not take a few years away from him? Once everything was done, we headed home where I fixed everything that got broken and started to tinker in the garage out of a mix of boredom and annoyance. The first thing I did was try to make more artificial catalyst crystals. This was something many companies are trying to do, but I figured out how to make them on my own. First, I get a crystal like quartz, amethyst, etc. I just need a small piece and I slowly fill it with mana and compress the mana. I'm trying new ways to compress mana to see if I can get a perfect massive catalyst crystal. I've tried just jamming the mana in, slowly filling it, and alternating between the two. Just jamming it gives it a high chance to explode, the flow takes forever, while the alternating one can create really good ones. There's some inconsistencies in mana distribution. Today I got 2 different shards for today's ideas. I put one on a spinning table for pottery and turned it on. After it got up to speed, I began to do the alternation technique on the shard. The improvement was almost instantly noticeable as the mana compacted a good amount more and the shard was growing as a perfect sphere. This one, if I don't accidentally blow it up, should at least be a high A grade, maybe even a low S. After an hour I stopped filling the crystal with mana and put the melon-sized gem into my backpack. I then tried making the mana spin around the crystal before having it rush in. The results were way better than the first try today. The second a small ball of mana formed, the crystal became round and grew. After half an hour the crystal was bigger than the one I just made. At an hour it was bigger than I was. I stopped pouring in my mana and checked it to realize what I've done. This crystal actually was a mana black hole. It absorbs mana from around it and adds it to itself, but it wasn't growing anywhere near as fast. At the rate it will grow now, it'll take a year to grow an inch. I hurriedly told Mom my research just bore awesome results and I started to roll my massive crystal to the ether engine factory. It took me a while to get it there thanks to people constantly stopping me to congratulate me and asking what I am rolling. When I got to the factory I yelled, "Boss, I think you'll like what I just rolled in." He came out of his office and froze staring at the crystal. Once he got over the shock he laughed, "Who gifted you this catalyst crystal?" "Your other boss." I shook my head and explained what I did. He was shocked and checked the crystal along with my other artificial crystals that didn't explode. We both quickly made them into ether engines to try them out. The ones I made before the spin duo worked like grade B crystals, but a couple exploded. The turntable one ran like a low-end S grade for a little bit before it quit working. As a joke I spun the engine and it went off. The faster it spun the better it worked, and we do have some machines that require spinning to work, so this solved that problem. When we tried the black hole crystal as I call it, he was stunned. No matter how much mana was used it didn't burn out or go below 95%. We stopped using it for 2 seconds and it was already back to full. He congratulated me and we sent the 2 spinners off to the forge. The forge is a lab where most new Silhouette Knights and Silhouette gear tech comes from. I beat them to the punch on the crystals though. I didn't write down how I did it and send it in just in case someone tries to steal my work. Once I helped out there for an hour I headed to the local Silhouette Knight factory. Once there I looked at all the designs people had come up with and pointed out any obvious flaws and possible fixes for them. Most thanked me but a few argued with me until I explained why they wouldn't work. With my backed up work done I headed off to the local quirk and magic allowing park and began to use my magic to mess around with the target dummies. People were getting mad as the dummies they were punching would fight back, targets started to move when they used to be stationary, and some quirks were even bounced back at their user. Eventually Kachin came to the park and went to the blast section and started to practice. With a smirk I had the dummy fight back. People nearby started to laugh and watch as I had the dummy beat the CRP out of him. When I finally stopped beating him up I headed home with a small bounce in my step. I got revenge and no one will ever know it was me. Knights and Magic and Quirks. I woke up the day after my prank at the park and headed off to Ether Engine Factory to work till lunchtime. When I got there was a group of people I've never seen before near the door. My boss walked over to me and led me over to the group of people. It was a group of people from the forge. They gave me a time crystal with 69,420 years on it. I then demonstrated how I got the artificial gems to form and work. They were all stunned by it since they were using glass or pure mana. After that I began to start to make small crystals about the size of tomatoes. My boss looked confused as I somewhat mass-produced them. Once I was done making a few 100,000 of them, I put them in a box and headed to my other job. Once there I went to my corner of the shop where I had a silhouette gear I had been working on. First thing I did was STRP it back to the frame and started to rewire it. Using crystal wires and my special crystal catalysts I put the wiring and mini ether engine in place. After my custom wiring was done and I made sure the crystals wouldn't move, I start to check the flow of mana. The flow was stronger, more pure, and uniform throughout my wiring. I smirked and put on the shielding I had on it previously before I hopped in to test it. The change was not obvious at first as I kept the gear off and just used my muscles to move to the testing field. When I started the small engine, the results were beyond what I was expecting. The gear began to move twice as fast as a full-speed top-grade one. I barely was using any of the engine too. After that I got onto the treadmill to test speed and generate backup electricity when needed. I should have made sure it wasn't on generator mode before I hopped on and started running. I went faster than Ernestus horse-type silhouette knight and within a few minutes blew all the wiring in the forge. The head mechanic came out, saw what I was doing and yelled, "What the F are you doing? You just destroyed the wiring." I jumped off the treadmill out of shock. Honestly, I shouldn't have jumped so hard, but he scared me. I touched the clouds, and if I didn't activate the air jets to slow me down there would be a massive crater. My landing did still make a loud bang and my second boss came flying out. "What the F is going on out here?" When the dust cleared he saw my gear without the metal casing. He yelled, "What is that?" "Guys, a beast broke in." "Boss, it's me. This is a test of something I thought of. It's a success, but I accidentally destroyed the wiring and the testing ground with it. I'm sorry, I should have double-checked the treadmill." I bowed in the suit and nearly sent my head into the ground. After catching myself and putting more dents in the training zone, I turned off the engine and got out of the suit. My boss and all the engineers began to look it over in shock. I noticed lots of damage to the frame and the damage I've did to the covering, which made me look like a glowing demon beast. I started my muttering and working on upgrades to fix the frail metals without needing to buy mithril or other strong metals. My boss snapped me out of it and asked where I got all the tomato-sized catalyst crystals. I had to explain I made them, but I promised the forge not to tell anyone. When I mentioned that, they all nodded and went back to work wondering how to implement and improve my wiring. After cleaning up my mess, I fixed the wiring and got to work on my ideas. After a few hours of smelting metal with crystal wires and making sockets for my artificial catalyst crystals, I tested them. The few batches I made all failed. Some would explode, a couple turned to dust, and one crumpled itself up after I tapped it with my nail. I gave up for the day and headed home with a headache as I tried to figure out the problem. My wiring made it too stronger for normal metals, but it's not cost-effective to make the giant silhouette knights out of mithril. Oh well, I will deal with that tomorrow after class. Shut up. Izuku's POV, I groaned as my alarm clock went off and I headed off to the bank to store the money I got from the forge. At first they thought I stole it until the forge confirmed it was legit, and I was then moved to a VIP+++ account. The add-ons are just stupid drivel, so I'll skip that. Once that was over, I headed to school and kinda dozed off at my desk. I spent a majority of the night awake trying to figure out my metal problems. Of course my rest didn't last long at all. After a few minutes of me napping, I was woken up by an explosion sending me to the floor. With an angry growl, I slowly opened my eyes and stood up. "What the F do you want, Bakugo?" I was up all night trying to figure out how to reinforce metals for silhouette knights and gear. You better have a really good reason to blast me. This makes everyone stare at me in shock, especially the teacher who ran in after the explosion. The main thing at first was I wasn't even pink where I was blasted. When people realized I cussed and called him Bakugo, everyone became worried. Bakugo grabs me by my neck and lifts me up. Who are you and what have you done to Deku? He would have never spoken to me like that. With an annoyed sigh I gave him a taste of his own quirk and blasted him to the teacher. I'm the same person Kachin, but I'm sick of you bullying me. I am a gold-white blessed unique and I am tired of you. I walked to the principal's office and just snitch it all. Years of bullying and wounds all flowed out in today's incident. They were shocked when I say I want them to note it down but say it's a drawback of his quirk he needs to work on. The principal agrees after I explain I just want him to get help but still have a good future. When I finished reporting I went back to class and asked what I missed, wrote down notes, and paid attention throughout the class. Everyone was waiting for Kachin go get called to the office but nothing happened, making it much more tense. When class was over I headed over to my second job and tried to make my metal idea work. The main forge MSTRS who focused on mixing metals all tried to help me but each idea failed. After a while I groaned and slammed my fist on my workbench and caused a burst of mana to hit some metal. This gave me an idea. I found the steel mixer and asked for his help to do a test of my idea. I took a good glob of perfect molten steel to my station and sent a spiral of mana into it, causing the metal go become very conductive to mana. With a good amount of mana surging through the molten steel I poured it into a mold of a silhouette gear chassis with my strand-type crystal tissue and a bunch of grape-sized black hole catalyst crystals. The metal and crystals fused as I wanted and I had to do almost nothing to get it to the correct form. There was a few bubbles from excess trapped mana which I popped and moved the mana into the air. After some checking the still hot frame for any hidden bubbles and finding none I started to assemble my silhouette gear. I put the mechanisms on it, put more of my custom crystal tissue in it, and stopped when I got to the external metal plates. Crud, I need to make more of the mana steel. I'm glad the frame actually can connect to the rest of the crystal tissue with how I made it. With a sigh I start to make custom casts for the plating and talk to my boss. He looked at my project and was a little surprised as he looked at the flow of mana throughout the entire structure. As I explained my idea I set up the crystal tissue for the insides of the future plating of my silhouette gear. He rushed off to get me more molten steel. I treated the metal with some mana and poured it into the molds, glad I could do this all in one day. Usually projects like this can take weeks but mine is almost done. Once the metal cooled I hooked it up to the crystal tissue of my silhouette gear. With it all out together I very easily walked outside of the city. I barely had to put any mana from my body into the suit's wiring to make it move. If I used more than a basic candle lighting spell's worth of mana I could have rushed there and destroyed everything in my path. My boss and a team of guards who use silhouette gears watched as I tested my design out. When a demon beast tried to attack me I just flicked it. The results was complete destruction of everything but its catalyst crystal. I looked worried but calmed down as I cleaned up the mess. Once I finished testing I headed back into the forge and disassembled my gear to see if the frame was intact. What surprised me was that it was even stronger now. With some hassle I changed the tomato-sized black hole catalyst crystals in the crystal tissue with grape-sized ones and tested it. The power was perfect and not overbearing like the original setup. With my testing done I called the forge and told them about my tissue and new metal creation. It took them literally 3 minutes to arrive and check it out. They loved it and planned to scale it up for Silhouette Nights. I agreed and gave them the names for the new tech. I decided on black hole crystal tissue and crystal steel. They loved the names and made a warning that the crystal tissue needs the metal but the metal doesn't need the tissue. With everything done and said I got another time crystal with 69,420 years on it, which was promptly deposited. My boss let me take my gear home after he marked it with a black hole drawing over the place my heart is when I'm wearing it. After putting it on I headed home being careful not to use too much mana. Mom loved my suit and with the Magicule engine inside she could use it too. No need for her to be an elf or able to use magic. Unfortunately, she used a bit too much in a jump and caused a crater in the backyard. Uncle Kurojiri scolded us both but congratulated me on my creations. In the capital, as Izuku and his mom was being scolded, the five and the king of the Golden Lotus Kingdom were all talking. His Majesty Leonis Lotus was a bit stunned of course as he heard their report. How could a young kid be so powerful? Merlin, we need to make sure he keeps making advancements. I think you should give his family a crest and a last name. Encourage him to keep going. Ernesti, I don't know about the last name bit as he has one from his father, but a family crest is a good idea. Maybe even his own lab could do. All but Ernesti, he isn't a mech nut like you. Ernesti, true, but he could still use a lab. His black hole, spinner, and bomb catalyst crystals are quite useful. Midas laughing, Ernesti, you're a bit behind. He has made crystal steel and black hole crystal tissue today. I got a message about it just before we got here. All might, Midas, don't tell me you gave him the same amount again. Shaking his head knowing he did, Sir Galahad, let him be immature as it's a bit funny to us. Anyways, I say crest, a lab made of his new metal if it's tougher than mithril, and maybe a title. King Leonis waves his hand to shut them all up as he rubs his forehead. After thinking a while he finally speaks. King, I agree with what you all say, but for now just a crest. He will gain a title when he graduates from his chosen high school. If he still is inventing by then, he shall get a lab with a forge, ether and magicule engine assembly area, a silhouette night and gear bay, and his own airship. Any objections? Midas, I agree, but can he get a hover ship? If my hunch is correct, he will go to UA and that place will allow his mom to come with him. King, fine, but only a grade C1. His home in Shield City D shall be theirs even if they move. After a while some odd-clothed white animal comes in through a window and lands on All Might's shoulder. Nizu, sorry I am late, the guards weren't told I was coming and thought I was a demon beast. Merlin with disgust, Nizu. Nizu, oh hi Merlin. Did you get a new stick up your butt? Laughs maniacally as Midas, Ernesti, and Galahad holds her back. King, no fighting you two. Nizu, you know why I summoned you. Nizu, in case Izuku Midoriya moved to UA City to go to the school there. He is to have a custom schedule to force weapon training, advanced silhouette tech, advanced magic, and still give him time to be his inventive self. That is already arranged as most students do it. Seriously, all you had to do was ask. King, I do have another point I want made though, if he wants to do the hero classes let him. He is already stronger than most kids. I got a report that he mimicked his tormentor's quirk and used it against him. Who knows, he might even be able to mimic yours. All Might. Knights and magic and quirks. I woke up a little late after having to fix up the yard. After getting a shower and eating breakfast the doorbell rang. I opened the door. Hello. In front of me stood a tall man in silhouette gear with the insignia for UA. After he double-checked his noteboard, Izuku Midoriya, I presume. After I nodded yes, he handed me an envelope and walked away. I quickly opened the letter then ran over to my mom surprised. Mom, you won't believe this. I was asked to partake in the UA entrance exam. They want me to go there tomorrow so I have a full night's rest. My mom didn't believe it until she read it twice. Before we could even plan a small party there was another knock at the door. Mom answered it this time and backed away a tad scared. I found out why when I peeked out. They were the royal knights in their gear. Over their hearts was the Golden Lotus Kingdom's royal seal. Miss Inko Midoriya and Mr. Izuku Midoriya. We both nodded scared. After a couple seconds of silence and searching their bags, one pulled out a scroll and the other a golden lotus with an emerald stem and leaves. Due to Izuku's creations advancing our silhouette technology, we are gifting you both a family crest you may design, the symbol of our kingdom, a grade C hover ship with house add-ons, and what the 5 heroes deem you deserve. You'll find them in the ship. Here's the keys. We were both handed golden blades with a special placements for our crest. They then bowed and left with the ship over our house. With that I used magic to float us up into the ship which we explore happily. My door had a black hole on it and inside was a dream bedroom with everything I could want. Even a mini lab and fridge was in there. Mom wouldn't let me in her room but showed me she had a coupon for a free spa day at University City's best spa. With our exploring done we packed up our stuff and got ready to fly to University City. True, the flight would only take a few hours but we wanted to explore and unfortunately looting is kinda common here. When we finished I headed to work at the Ether Engine factory only to get a surprise party. After celebrating a couple hours and getting a few giant chunks of gems, an industrial catalyst crystal tester, and work gloves I headed to the Silhouette factory. Another party but I got a lot of accessories for my Silhouette gear. I was able to make a second black hole Silhouette gear for my mom with all the accessories, and a bunch of knowledge crystals. These made me ecstatic. Knowledge crystals are a much better version of books. Instead of having to read the instructions you get to live out doing what's in the crystals. I got a blacksmith, alloy mixing, building the more complex accessories, and how to file everything I create for both jobs. After a longer party I headed home, gave Mom her gear and looked at the black hole stamp on the hearts of both of our gears and started to make a crest. I wanted to have a lotus and a black hole in it but couldn't get a good design. After a few hours of drawing failed designs I decided to check my closet which I have yet to look into. I may have moved my stuff up here but I've yet to put a thing away. Once I open it I notice there's 5 presents in it. One is a definitely an earnesty gift since it's blueprints to all kinds of Silhouette knights, Silhouette gear, and their accessories. One is a portable exercise kit for super strong people, so definitely All Might. The third was a set of wooden training weapons. Wooden weapons, for a kid who can make and use pure mithril weapons with ease. I'll admit I was disappointed until I lifted up one of them. When I touched it I instantly dropped it and sat on my bed stunned. Sir Galahad gave me catalyst wood training weapons. These are rare as hell. Basically catalyst trees grow in areas of high mana or ether concentration, where there are also a lot of monsters. The wood is greedy for magic or energy in general, so it's the best for training someone's magical and physical endurance. The more they feed the stronger they get, so I basically got unbreakable, self-strengthening wooden weapons. Using some special gloves that came with them, I put the weapons in their respective places on my wall. With that done I open the 4th gift, which is definitely from Merlin, as it's a lot of science, potion, alchemy, and a bunch of other branches of research. The last one honestly worried me the worst. His humor is known to be dirty and immature. After some pondering I just open it, for a ton of different gems and metal shards fell onto the floor and a note. Basically he wanted me to try them all out for possible mana metals and black hole catalyst crystals. With a small smile I put them all on my desk and decided to test them all later. The metals would have to wait since they have to be molten to accept mana, and I didn't get a mini forge on the ship. I put my clothes away and went to the helm of our flying house and headed off to Academy City. We of course were stopped at the city's wall as we were leaving, but once I explained it all they let us through. As I drove the ship Mom made supper and asked what all was in my room. I told her about the mini fridge, the catalyst with training weapons, and the rest happily. Mom sighed when I complained about my mini lab not having a mini forge. Before I could complain about anything else she hit me with a book. If you go 1 semester without any trouble or bad grades I will buy and install a mini forge in your room deal. I agreed instantly. When we got to University City, where most residents are teachers or students, Mom got her spot treatment and I applied at the local Silhouette factory and Ether Engine factory just in case I actually got into UA or another university here. Knights and magic and quirks. I yawned as I woke up after a good night's sleep. While I did my morning routine Mom slept in, so I left a note to tell her I'm off to the entrance exam. Once I had everything I needed and my custom black hole Silhouette gear I headed to UA. I got plenty of looks of disgust as I walked through the streets since most thought I was a spoiled rich elf. Of course I ignored them. Assume all you want people, I won't judge you back. Once I got to the UA gate, I quickly walked in and signed in, marking my custom black hole silhouette gear and a custom sword I've been working on as gear I've brought. The dude scoffed as I wrote the 2 items as self-made. Instead of proving it, I just headed in and sat in the auditorium with my gear set up in the back with its key in my hand. Basically, without the key it's not going anywhere. The written test was first off, and it was very easy. Most of it was quirk theory, mana theory, ether theory, and silhouette technology. Luckily it was basic stuff taught in school now, and I did fix a couple wrongly worded questions. Seriously, do they not have spell check in the printing crystals here? When I finished and was about to head off to the bathroom, I found a couple goons trying to use my gear. I walked to the restroom, used it, and returned hoping they stopped. Instead I see one in it using his muscles to move it, laughing some. This of course makes me mad. So I walked over and glared, "Get out of my silhouette gear right now." They laughed until I tapped the elbow of it with my key, causing it to launch the muscle-bound idiot across the room. With the dude out, I got in, put it back in place, locked it completely, and got out with a glare at the 2 idiots left with my sword still on my hip. They did the tough guy thing of punching one hand into the other before I decided I'm no longer playing nice. Last chance, walk away from my gear or else you're getting hurt without me using my sword. They laughed and charged at me as I put my sword into my gear, so I'm not tempted. One swung a right hook as the other planned to tackle me. As they began to line up some, I gently hit the fist, causing it to start to go down instead of across, hitting the tackle happy moron in the head, knocking him out. With the leader and idiot one out, the remaining dude tried to run off, afraid of a one-on-one fight. To this I decide to do an experiment. Grabbing a simple seed of a strawberry vine from my snacks, I fill it with mana and make it grow. Using my mana to replace its nutrients, it grows vines thicker than my arm and ties him up quickly as the vines grow more strawberries. Thanks for being a testing dummy. I wanted to see if mana can mimic plant quirks some, and I'm hungry. With a smirk I pick some mana, I fuse strawberries and eat them as I return to my seat. People who watched are chuckling and making notes to avoid me during the physical parts of the test. When everyone finishes the written portion, a hero walks into the stage and I instantly grab earplugs and pass them to other nearby elves. "Hello listeners, may I get a plus ultra?" Yes, present Mike was giving the presentation, screaming his head off. A lot of elves out of reach screamed in pain as he yelled, causing him to back off some and apologize before giving the presentation about the rules for the physical part for heroes, magical for mages, and the technical part for the ones wanting to advance our technology. When he finishes explaining the points for the physical bit of the hero course, the bots give when defeated, a blue-haired human raised his hand and yelled, "Your pamphlet said 4 bots, not 3. And you weird green-haired elf, you fighting earlier was a very unwanted distraction and I want an apology now." I sighed and stood up. "If you waited and read the screen, the 4th knot is to be avoided as it's worth nothing, and I only fought because they tried to steal my self-made silhouette gear. I saved months for the medal alone, and the contract you signed before the test allows you to defend your own property, so shut up and listen." Once I set him straight, we both sat down with people laughing while I glared at the trio of goons, making them shy away in fear. Present Mike thanked me for explaining and scolded the blue hair and the trio for being rude and breaking a couple rules for which points will be deducted for. He then finished the presentation and asked if anyone had questions. For this I raised my hand and waited to be called on. "Yes, test taker #" I quickly stood. "What should I do to apply for all 3 courses?" That made the room go quiet before some thug laughed, as if a freak can do more than one class. This annoyed me as I looked at him. "I'm guessing you'll be hero and you have a good quirk." He smirked and his hands became thick iron blades. "Wanna bleed on my blades, freak?" What I did next stunned them. I did the same but added fire to the blades, which I made into mithril. "I rather make you burn, weakling." I then undid the change before I formed a spell over my head which started to launch a ton of snowballs at the punk, burying him in a pile of snow. "I may be different but never call me a freak," I said as I end the magic and look at present Mike for an answer. "You can do them all, but you have to start with the physical test, okay?" When he said this I nodded and headed to the physical testing exit. Knights and magic and quirks. I headed over to the door to the physical test at first before I rushed back and got my silhouette gear and walked out the door. Everyone was excited to do this, but they kept glaring at me and a few others with their own gears. Before I could talk to them, I saw their family crests and backed away, knowing not to associate myself with them. Their crest is of a snake being stepped on and biting the heel of the foot, the crest of the Fong family. They are notorious cheaters, rule breakers, and more, but they are so rich and powerful even the king is wary of them. One girl walked over to me after a bit and asked about my gear once she realized I was not a Fong. I answered politely and looked her over some. Her name was Uraraka and she is kinda cute, but I'm not sure she is my type. Anyways, as I explained it, people nearby looked at me stunned and the blue hair from earlier walked over. You really built this yourself? I nodded and pointed to the branding on the gear, a simple black hole. I actually have to make a crest involving this later. This stunned people until Present Mike snapped everyone out of it and made them get ready. I got out of my gear and smirked as I set up for an idea I had. While we all got ready, I formed a few thin but strong strings out of mana. These strings connected to different parts of my gear and let me remotely control it and give it more mana to form a mana sword without even taxing the engine at all. Then the doors opened and I rushed in with my gear, causing people to yell. I'm cheating, only for Present Mike to yell, there is no countdown, follow the boy and his gear. To simply what happened next is I spent about half an hour using my strength, some mana, and my gear to destroy a ton of robots. At most I'd breath fire or ice to disorient them before smashing or slicing them. That is until the 0-pointer appeared. This giant robot got my BLD pumping as I charged at it. I'm glad I did, otherwise Uraraka would have been squashed under it. My gear got her free from the rubble as I flew into the air. Once I was eye level with it, I smirked, flipped it off, and a bunch of portals appeared in, on, and through it. These portals split the robot apart easily without destroying any major parts, as wiring can be redone. In the observation room, All Might, he's strong, versatile, and really good with magic. Merlin agreed, but he didn't have to flip us off. Nizu cackling, what a show, and no major damage to the parts. I want the elf, dwarf boy in my class. The 5 and Nizu look at the person a bit stunned. This guy has never asked for anyone in particular but has rejected many. Just put him in my class. I know he wants to do the mage, and technology paths too, so afternoons every other day he will be in my class. The other days can be mage lessons with the support tech being every morning. I wanna see his gear advance with him. Nizu, okay, but he has to, never mind, he already passed them if I show them this tape. I am curious about how much mana he has and how he can mimic Quirks so easily. Back to Izuku, after disassembling the 0 I made sure Uraraka was okay. After that was done I started to heal people using magic. What stunned most was I could have my gear heal people as well. When Recovery Girl came in, she was happy no one was hurt but hit me for doing her job. Once that was over, I headed over to the mage test and got at the end of the line. Luckily it wasn't very long. When it was my turn I left my gear locked up outside the door as I headed in. The test was to test our accuracy, spell power, mana purity, and what spells we could do. The last 2 are mainly to see a person's potential. Even though humans need catalyst crystals in wands or staffs to cast magic, it's still using their mana. The purer it is, the more they will develop. Poor purity is because the body is not able to completely turn ether into mana and leaves bits of it unchanged. Also, some people's mana is also more suited for different elements or types of spells. There are cases people can't use elemental spells yet can use healing, trap, or buffing magic. When I walked in, the proctor looked at me a bit worried but handed me an orb with some strand-type crystal tissue connecting it to other crystals. Pour some of your mana into the crystal so we can test your mana purity. I did so and lit up all the other crystals really brightly, and blew them all up afterwards. This stunned me and the proctor, as no one has done that before. Maybe a few lower grade ones blew up but never all of them. With both of us scared, mostly him, he had me cast the testing spell. It's known as Merlin's Inner Eye. You basically cast the spell and ball of the elements will appear. If the orb glows you have an affinity to it. Light, darkness, air, earth, fire, water, healing, trap, buff, enchanting, and a mysterious last orb no one has ever glowed except for Merlin herself. Many theories have been made about it but no one knows. Anyways, the spell takes between a minute and an hour to cast depending on your purity and mana amount. I cast it in 1 second with all 10 orbs glowing as if they were all miniature suns. Once the results were recorded I was about to do accuracy but the proctor told me to just go cause I already passed that test in power. I shrugged and headed off to the tech bit only for the proctor to say I already passed and told me to go home. They wouldn't even let me show off my sword which I made just for this test. Talk about rude. Well, luckily I was stopped by a girl named May. She was very curious about my sword and silhouette gear. When we found an area without people I showed off my sword. Using mana steel, some of my black hole crystal tissue, and my mana I had a WHP-like sword I could control like a snake. With that showed off I showed her the gear and let her try it out on the lowest possible setting. She still somehow destroyed a couple walls. I really need to fine-tune it. Needless to say, we both got in trouble and were sent home. Hopefully that didn't ruin my chances of getting into UA. Knights and Magic and Quirks. After entrance exam. All Might, what do you mean he lit up all the orbs? Isn't that impossible? The others stiffen up as they hear All Might yell in shock at the test giver. TG, as far as I know, yes. He also destroyed all the crystals used to check mana strength. Midas, I won the bet. Now you all need to help pay or make a portable forge for Izuku. They all chat some planning it when Ernesti noticed Merlin being very quiet. Ernesti, Merlin, are you okay? You've been quiet since you heard he lit up all of those orb things. Merlin, he can cast every element, buff, curse, heal, injure, enchant, and unenchant with the first 9 orbs. The last orb is what scares me the most. Galahad, what does it even mean? You never told us, saying no one should ever be that capable. Merlin, I'll dumb it down so you can understand it. Fire and water are opposites elementally and essence-wise. What most don't know is they have a section of their opposites essence in them. All Might, so basically each element has a yin and yang effect on its opposite. Enchanting, healing, and buffing do as well so. Merlin, he can remove that part from the elements. Make a fire that no amount of water can ever destroy. A wind that can easily turn rocks into nothing. Enchants that can never be undone. Midas, isn't that a good thing? Merlin, yes if he can control it, but otherwise no. You know how all healers have strong light but very low darkness affinity. Everyone nods a bit confused. Merlin, and how Death Eaters, as you nerds call them, have the healers and darkness instead. Another set of confused nods. Merlin, buffers, debuffers, enchanters, and unenchanters are the same plus another element. He can do all of them without an elemental base. That is where it gets bad. All Might, so what if he gives someone strength without an earth base? Merlin, it becomes permanent unless he removes it. No one else can, and that means he can curse you with permanent weakness, painful immortality, or anything else he wants. He can make you live forever in pain or heal you until you die. Without an elemental able to cancel his magic, he is unstoppable. I am not even his match because his purity, strength, and mana amount crushes mine. The room goes silent for a long time. Nizu, so you're telling me if we F up and make him evil we are all doomed? Merlin, yes, nothing would be able to stand in his way. Nizu, good to know, I will start planning his class schedule. Galahad, were you not paying attention? Nizu, I was, and I think his heart is too pure for evil and I plan to keep it that way. There was a plan I've been wanting to initiate for a while now. A daycare, and each class will have set times helping out as training. He will have at least 3 classes a week helping out there, helping him play with the kids and stay good. All Might, sounds good to me, but one small thing. Did we find out who is kidnapping kids yet? Ernesti, almost, and a new drag has been made recently. It removes quirks and the bodily changes of being made into a dwarf or elf. Fortunately it only lasts a couple days before it wears off. Midas, I heard of that, and also I heard that a group of Yakuza has formed. Hopefully the three problems are all connected so it's all taken down at once. Merlin, same here, but we will find out when the time comes. Knights and magic and quirks. I was busy in my room messing with different gem chunks. Thanks to Midas I learned that diamonds make the best artificial catalyst crystals. I barely had to put any mana in to have the sucker become a baseball in size. After figuring that out I grabbed all my results and headed to the nearest ether engine forge to report my findings. They didn't believe my credentials until Midas and Ernesti showed up. I should have known Midas gave you gems. Trying to make him a merchant. No, I was curious what crystals or gems make the best artificial catalyst crystal. To make them easier to mass produce. The answer is diamonds, unfortunately. I was hoping a cheaper gem would do it. I then showed them the results as I explained how much mana I put in each for the results I got. Well, we can make artificial diamonds. Let's try those. I looked at Midas confused as he rummaged in a bag. At first I thought he was being dramatic until he started to pull out a giant chain of different stones, gems, and metals that easily was much bigger than the bag. Is that your legendary bottomless bag? How was it made? I'll send you the runes later, but here, try this. With that he tossed me a tiny chunk of an artificial diamond. Once I calmed myself down I tried it out and got pretty good result with it being a bit worse than a real diamond. It is worse by 4% but not horrible. Maybe if the charcoal used is crushed, purifies, and reburnt a couple times it would handle that. You didn't know about artificial diamonds, how did you know about the charcoal? There is some residual mana channels that match charcoal impurities in the fake. I can kinda sense and see them since each of my cells is a mini catalyst crystal. I talked to Ernesti and Midas for a bit, doing my best to contain my fanboy ways. When they left I had the directions to make Midas's bottomless bag, their autographs, and a letter from UA. Once I realized what the letter was I ran to my home, which is a good-sized airship. Mom welcomed me home, and when she saw the papers I was holding she asked what they were. After calming down I explained I met Midas and Ernesti and I got these from them. Mom wanted to frame the autographs but I stopped her, saying we need Merlin and Galahad first so all 5 are on the page. By then supper was ready so we ate before getting to the letter from UA. I opened it and read it slowly. The results were kinda confusing but I got 140% in the written test, 200 in the physical test. I can use all elements and I had to do special lessons in magic, and I got into all the courses. With that we celebrated until bedtime. The next morning I headed out and decided to explore the town some. As I walked I realized people were keeping a very wary eye on me and their kids within arm's range. I thought it was odd so I stopped at a food stand and got a kebab. As it was made I asked him why every parent looked like they wanted me gone. He sighed and told me kids are being kidnapped or going missing in every city, but here it is the worst. Since I'm new they'll be wary of me for a while, especially since I'm both dwarf and elf in appearance. I paid him some extra time in thanks for the info and walked to the library with my kebab. As I finished it I destroyed my trash with magic right before I was bumped into by a small white-haired girl with a horn. I quickly knelt down and helped her up. Are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere? She was crying and then she tensed up when she heard a guy say, "Eri, come back here please." I looked up at the guy in a weird bird beak-like mask. I didn't say anything about it as I slowly stood up. "I'm sorry sir, is this girl yours?" He chuckles insincerely, "Yes, I'm sorry." "She's mad," I scolded her. That's when I faintly heard Eri say, "Please don't make me go back." As I heard that I used some mana to heal her and check her memories. As I watched her memories I got mad really fast. Before the guy could figure out what I am doing I checked his memory too and nearly threw up. "How dare you?" The guy flinched. "What did you say?" I glared at him. how dare you hurt innocent children overhaul. With that my mana went crazy. All 6 elements formed as crystals around me before they launched themselves at overhaul. He tried to avoid them but they sank into his body. The crystals destroyed and rebuilt his body constantly as he felt like he was drowning in a lake of lava as he became too heavy to move yet too light to tough anything. He was in constant agony and I believe he still deserves more. I contacted the police, showed them the memories I saw, and when I tried to undo what I did I couldn't. No matter how hard I tried to undo the curse I gave him I was unable to. That is when Merlin showed up and undid the curse. Overhaul was taken away and I was forced to wear mana and quirk stopping bracelets until I take my magic classes with her. I took Eri home with me as she actually fought with anyone who tried to take her away from my Breeze's leg. Mom quickly took her in and we spent the next couple days getting her clothes and such as I prepared to go to school next week. This will be one long but week. Knights and Magic and Quirks. Table of contents. I woke up Monday and did my morning exercises quietly as Eri slept on her princess bed which I made for her. Once it was time for breakfast I woke up Eri and had her get dressed. We walked into the kitchen where Mom had made some pancakes and bacon. Eri didn't know what they were and I nearly shattered my mana and quirk cuffs. After we ate I walked with her to school where I was led to a big office where a weird creature sat behind a desk. I looked it over before I spoke. I am assuming you're Nizu. It stood up. Yes I am. Now is this Eri? He hopped down and walked over to her which was kinda cute. Both are the same height, same hair/fur color, and I could tell Eri wanted to hug him. We set up a schedule and explained it to her the best we can as he lead us to the daycare. Once there she was gives a quirk stopping bracelet just in case and I told her I would be back. She looked scared so I gave her a plush I made last night. My mom thought of this happening so I made a plush of me and gave it to her. I promise I'll be back. Until then this plush will keep you company, okay? Plus there are kids your age here. If any hurt you squeeze it really hard and I'll come running, okay? She squeezed it and all the elves nearby winced. Not now sweetie, not that hard. I hugged her and left to go to class. I hope she has a good day. I was then led to my classroom where I heard yelling down the hallway. Nizu wasn't happy but was smirking as he looked at an odd lump of fabric in the hall before returning to his office. With a sigh I walked in and headed to an empty seat by the window. As I walked in I heard Kachin yelling, the blue-haired telling him to sit properly, and people chatting as normal. I luckily wasn't noticed at all because how quiet and fast I was. I curled my ears up some as the chatter and yelling was a bit loud. Eventually I finally get said and yell, shut up. Seriously, I can hear you all down the DMN hallway. Consider elves, you arrogant humans and dwarves. This made everyone be quiet as they look at me a bit stunned as they didn't see or hear me enter. I was glaring and my usually loosely hanging ears are straight back and rigid like blades. Get out of here, crossbreed freak. I bet you broke onto campus. Katsuki said as he made some small explosions happen in his hands. As he said that I noticed the odd yellow fabric lump from the hall crawl in. Once I saw that I chuckled, how about we ask the teacher if I'm in the right classroom? I could just be in the wrong one since I'm in multiple classes. Katsuki growled, just leave, freak. That's when the lump revealed itself behind the desk to be a sleeping bag with a tired man in it. Katsuki Bakugo, sit down right now. Izuku Midoriya, you are in the right room for today. This afternoon go to magic class. Tomorrow you start in support and then come back here. Magic and heroics shall swap every other day unless told otherwise. I nodded and wrote that down before I heard Eris doll. I warped to Eri and relaxed when I saw she was playing house with another girl. With a chuckle I knelt down. Please don't hug the doll too tight. It has a noise maker for me to know when Eri is in trouble. The girl apologized and nodded as Eri hugged me. Is it time to go home? I shook my head, not yet, Snowball. I came because of the doll's alarm. Keep playing with your friend, okay? She nodded and I walked back to class. May I know why you suddenly left Midoriya? I bowed, "I'm sorry, Aizawa." My adoptive daughter accidentally triggered an alarm and I warped to check on her. Everyone looked at me in a mix of awe and disgust. "Bet she is a freak like you." That made me snap and the entire room became ice cold. With that my quirk and magic suppression cuff completely broke. They cracked when I warped but now they were gone. Aizawa tried to stop me with his capture scarf but it phased right through me. I slowly walked over to Katsuki. "How dare you insult her? You have no clue what she has been through. She has had her BLD drained to make quirk and magic stopping bullets. She has been taken apart and reformed many times. And I saved her from that hell last week. Now apologize or I'll make you a eunuch." Everyone was scared by me then when they heard me. Aizawa walked in between me and Katsuki. "Enough, Midoriya. Calm down before you curse someone else on accident." I undid the aura of cold and my glowing eyes before I nodded and sat down. Once the room warmed up we were told to get into our track uniforms and to head out to the physical field. Using magic I changed clothes and warped there as everyone else had to change in the locker rooms. As I waited for everyone I made a couple small changes to Aizawa's sleeping bag which I stole before I warped. When Aizawa arrived he wasn't happy until I handed him the changed sleeping bag. I changed it to have legs and elastic band that go under his shoes that poke out of the legs when worn. He quickly put it on and leaned against a tree while we waited. Everyone soon arrived and Katsuki had to throw a ball as an example. 879 meters with an explosion and him screaming, "Die." When someone said this exercise thing will be fun I shook my head. Since this will be fun, the one who scores the worst shall be expelled. When I heard someone whine about it being unfair I snapped again. Is it fair that we have to fight mutated animals to survive? Is it fair that villains try to kill us every so often? Is it fair other countries try to destroy peace so they can get more land? Is it fair a little girl gets tortured for over 3 years because of her quirk? No it isn't and life is never meant to be fair. Ck it up princess cause you're in the real world now. Also if he doesn't think we have what it takes he will expel us. He did it to last year's class. We then started our exercises where I got the highest scores up until we got to the ball toss. Once there Aizawa stopped me, "No need. I know what you can do." I nodded and left to go to magic class. While there I learned why I couldn't undo my curses that I put on overhaul. I began to learn control so my emotions wouldn't cause me to freeze or curse willy-nilly since I'm a living catalyst crystal. When class finished I picked up Eri and headed home with her telling me about her day. She had fun so hopefully tomorrow I don't have a bad day again. Second day of Bunny class 1 felt that Kota kinda got Ed in the series so that I gave him some extra abilities to buff him and made him an elf. I probably need to do a chapter with everyone explaining their powers in this new world. After a somewhat rough night trying to go from regular sleep into meditation like all good mages I stumbled to the restroom. After a quick magic-enhanced shower I woke up Eri and headed to the kitchen for breakfast. Mom was happy to see us as she announced she got a job. It was a simple accounting job and it's something she can do easily. She then passed me a ton of mail. I found this in our platform's postal basket this morning. I was stunned with just the huge amount of envelopes while eating. Once I finished eating I began to go through them. Most were from the forges and engine factories I applied at a couple days ago. All of them wanted me and kinda did a bidding war on how much to pay me. Mom was shocked as well when we looked at the amount of time some were offering per hour of work. When I got to the last one I was confused until I read it. It was a job offer from Ernesti, Midas, and Merlin to work at their forge and ether engine factory. After a while of thinking about it I decided to accept it. Not only would I be making 3 years a month, I would also get to make a lab for any science/magic experiments I wanted. It also had a daycare so I can take Eri if I wanted to. After accepting it I used magic to send it to them and sent messages to the others saying I accepted another offer and apologized for wasting their time. With that done I headed to school using a skateboard. Eri was on hover skates with a shield generator so nothing can hurt her. I was kinda towing her behind me with a rope I was holding. She loved it as it was exciting and she got to hang out with me. Once we got to UA, I packed the board and her skates and we walked in. I put her in the daycare before I ran to my classroom. As I ran I sneezed and scared Koda. The quiet elf squealed and hit me with one of his gifts. 1 second I was just a bit shorter than him, then I was smaller than his boot. When I looked at the shiny floor I found out what happened, I was turned into a bunny. I will be honest, I was mad at first. My first thought was to start biting him, but his shoes were too thick. After a bit of him being assaulted by me, he picked me up and carried me into the classroom quickly. The whole time he was apologizing to me and fumbling through his backpack. When we got to the classroom he put an odd mask on me and sat me at my desk. I'm sorry, please don't be mad. One of my quirks make me able to talk to animals while the other can make people into their spirit animals. He looked about to cry. Seeing a statue-like face crying is heartbreaking. I gently hopped over and gently put my paw on his forehead. Secretly I copied his quirks using magic, cause prank potential. Using my free paw I gently nudged the mask thing as other classmates came in. It's a special translator my dad made for me. He has a similar gift but his is more turn others into what he wants. I nodded and decided to try it. It's okay Koda, my sneezes do get quiet loud. I even hurt my own ears sometimes. This made him chuckle softly before Uraraka and the blue-haired JRK walked over. Blue scolded, "You're not supposed to bring pets into the school grounds and that is Midoriya's desk, so please remove the rodent." Uraraka glared at him before she pet me head gently, "It's so cute, what's its name?" After nuzzling into her hand for a sec because she was scratching at the base of my ears. It felt good as an elf but even more as a bunny. Blue had to ruin it. I said remove the vermin from the desk. Now do it. This made me mad. Unfortunately for him my crystals and dwarf strength was still usable. I'm not a vermin. I'm your F classmate, you wet blanket. My yell scared the entire class, but seeing a palm-sized green rabbit beating up the class rule lawyer made everyone laugh. I bounced off people and desks as I kicked, head-butted, bit, and punched the party killer. After a bit I was suddenly wrapped in some odd fabric and yanked away. As I looked at what had me I felt fear when I saw I was caught in Aizawa's scarf and he was not happy. Someone care to explain why Ida Tenya was being beat up by this rabbit? Koda answered softly, "That's Midoriya, sir." I accidentally turned him into his spirit animal and Ida called him a vermin twice. This made Uraraka pale some, I just broke the elf ear rule. I'm so sorry, I didn't know. This made Aizawa's groan and put me back on his desk as I sneezed again. Coffee and my nose don't agree and Aizawa is now a cat. Koda quickly gave him his own translator mask and I couldn't help but laugh on my desk until he hissed. Aizawa quickly leapt to his desk and growled, "Everyone sit down and shut up. Koda, you're going to work on your skittishness from now on. Also, how long will this last?" Koda muttered something and only an elf with odd jack-like extensions on her ear tips heard him. He says it lasts an hour and will not affect any magic or quirks if you have them. I make myself float, yep, magic works still. Still mad though. Why a bunny? Koda shrugged saying he didn't know. That's when I launched myself and Katsuki and hit him with the quirk turning him into a small Pomeranian. I was right. You are Pomeranian. While everyone was stunned I kicked him away and ran down the halls to escape the obviously said explosive mutt. I got the recording later from Mizu with a note thanking me for the entertainment. Now for what he means by entertainment. As I was chased by Katsuki we ran into different heroes, students, and robots. Cementos couldn't stop us with cement, midnight sleep gas was explosive and ended up destroying a classroom. Hound dog was chased up a tree, I used a clone of ectoplasm as a springboard to get up the stairs quicker, and I hid in the kitchen where I was almost used for lunch. When it finally wore off on me I warped to the classroom and sat down. I'm back and sorry I had to get some revenge on him for bullying me. That's when a busty elf with a long black ponytail walked over to me, do you have a mimic quirk or something? I chuckled and shook my head. No, my catalyst crystal is unique and lets me copy quirks. It's why I can warp and use Koda's quirk. By the way, you can reverse it by hitting them again. Soon a soaking wet Katsuki walked in. You freak. I'm gonna turn you into roasted rabbit. Koda hits him with his quirk on purpose and kneels. Stop yelling. You're hurting all the elves' ears. Nod if you promise to stop. After growling and barking, he eventually nodded, getting turned back. He flipped me the bird and returned to his seat. Aizawa then looked at me. Just so you know, Midoriya, you're in the wrong class. You're supposed to be in the support class building stuff. With that, I bolted from the room with everyone who liked me, or enjoyed the piece without Katsuki, laughed at my reaction. To be honest, I could have skipped that class today. I learned all this already, and I had created better versions in my previous forge and factory jobs. Needless to say, I was half asleep from boredom when I picked up Eri. Please let tomorrow not be too exciting or boring. Knights and magic and quirks. I headed to the forge that Ernesti, Midas, and Merlin owned the next day after school. Eri was of course with me, so I put her in the daycare there. With her settled in, I headed over to a floor manager to get to where I'm working. I found one, and before I could ask, a burly dwarf knocked me over and yelled at the manager. I need my sword fixed. It's been in my family forever and it's about to fall apart. I picked myself up and sighed. You're a dwarf, you can repair it yourself. After dusting myself off, I headed over to Midas and Ernesti's office. I barely got to the door when the dwarf JRK knocks me down again to force Midas and Ernesti to meet him and hopefully repair his stupid sword. Needless to say, I was upset, and so was Midas as he sees me get thrown to the ground by a random JRK. Ernesti helped me up as Midas growled, I can't fix your blasted relic. I can't even tell what it's made of. Apparently this guy has been harassing them daily about this stupid sword. I quietly casted my appraisal spell and sighed. It's a mix of mineral, osmium, and charcoal of an ironwood tree. To repair it would take a complete meltdown, recharcoaling, and reforming. This makes everyone freeze up, especially Midas. After a bit of silence, Ernesti spoke first. You know. How do you know? I explained. I used Midas' appraisal, or at least the version I made, trying to copy the rumors I heard of it. This made Midas whistle and ask for a copy of the spell. I handed it to him and looked at the simple great sword. Reshaping it back to this would be a bore. Would your family be okay with it being reshaped some? That's when I touched the blade as I cast my appraisal skill again. I saw all the death and pain the sword caused both in war and a couple accidents. After the memories of the blade flashed through my mind, I saw lots of threads from the sword to different ingredients in the shop and a few leading outside. My body then began to move on my own as I took the sword to a nearby forge. Once it was there, I began to melt it and create warp gates to grab different ingredients from all over the forge. When I had to grab the ingredients outside of the forge, I flew out and headed to outside of the walled city. Once outside, I hunted down a couple monsters, a giant spider and a dragon BLD tray ant. It was easy to kill them with my warp portals closing and cutting them into multiple pieces. With the final ingredients in my hands, I headed back to the forge, curious why my body was moving on its own. When I returned, I had to create an energy sphere to keep people from grabbing back the stuff connected to the blade by the threads. With the sphere up, I began to refine the materials I grabbed as I began to sing an odd song over and over again. As I sang, magic symbols flew out of the items and back in as I hammered, cut, and such. Everyone was watching as I kept singing and forging the metal in place. Instead of just one sword, I ended up making a sword and shield combo. When I finished, the pair glowed and became named items. When the glowing died, I dismissed the energy dome and handed the guy the sword shield combo. I apologize for suddenly moving like that, I just couldn't help myself. These are the sword and shield of Adam. Both need to be equipped at the same time for their powers to work. Midas choked on air as he checked the items with my appraisal spell. Ability to perfectly counter any melee attack and reflect projectiles back to their sender. That is impossible. No magic item has ever had such an ability. Ernesti swung at the rude dwarf only for the shield to knock his hand to the side as the sword pointed itself at his throat. I sat down tired as I watched it happen. The spider I killed was a rebound webber. Its silk webs reflects projectiles to a small extent, and the treant I killed for the handles could form extra hands to counter attacks. Their abilities were transferred into the pair. The other items make it self-repair, heal its owner via vampiric abilities, and has a death counter ability. Unfortunately those won't be seen by my appraisal spell. The only reason I know is because I have a slight bond with it since I reforged it. I'll work on an appraisal spell to mimic what I call Smith Sense. This made everyone quiet for a bit until Midas walked over. Sorry if this seems greedy, but can you reforge my favorite armor and a new one I got? I have a bunch I'd like to test. I nodded and meditated some to recharge my mind some. I may have infinite mana but not infinite mental strength. After an hour I was shown 2 identical armors. I redid my touch and appraisal spell and moved one with lots of memories as it felt ready to be remade into its true form. I only grabbed metal from storage before flying out to follow the threads again. I soon found the target of the 5 threads that came out of the armor. It's a lounge of 5 rare golden basilisk that turned stuff to gold instead of stone. I killed them and grabbed the few eggs that was there. With a rush I headed back into Forge and began to work on reforging the armor. With a flourish I started to resang that song as I began to forge the armor with the words blade and sword being changed to plate and armor and power to will. As I reforged it all I swiped Midas' sword from his hip as it was part of the set. When I finished I set it on the armor stand and sat back down. The Midas armor set. Sword, shield, and armor all with a curse to those who attack the wearer with golden BLD. It makes them heavier and slower until they either surrender or die. Well, if they die they become a golden statue. It should be up for your standards. Also I grabbed some golden basilisk eggs for you as I killed a lounge of adult ones. Midas put it on and looked like a gold-plated bad butt. As he tested swinging his sword and moving around in it he couldn't help but smile. This is amazing. It is so light but looks like pure gold. I chuckled. The basilisk scales are the reason. They replace where you had the iron chainmail, reinforces everything, and has very strong defense. With a smile I got back up and headed to the daycare. Have a good evening everyone. I hopefully can have an actual shift tomorrow, but right now I'm completely drained. I'm gonna take my daughter home now. I got Eri and we headed home where I told Mom what happened. She was shocked and Eri, well, she didn't understand but cheered anyways. Needless to say I had no trouble sleeping that night. Elsewhere Midas, he is a forging genius. He reforged my golden armor and a different guy's sword into a sword-shield combo. The abilities in them are amazing and I don't think he told us everything. Ernesti, the golden BLD curse is very unnerving when it affects you. Shivers Merlin, so what? He going to be a god blacksmith or something? Galahad, I think so Merlin. I watched the recording and saw him work. That skill is godlike and the monsters he killed are no pushovers. The rebound webbers and basilisk are definitely tough BSTRDS to crack. They argue a while until All Might finally talks. All Might, I think he will be our 6th. He's much more than any of us expected and he has gone beyond Merlin's visions already in his skills. All 5 go silent as they feel the great pressure of having to add a 6th Great One. Merlin, I agree, but after he graduates and kills a behemoth-class monster. Ernesti and Midas begin to crack up, laughing hysterically. All Might, I guess they didn't explain that. Merlin, explain what? Galahad, one of the basilisks was a behemoth. A female behemoth. Merlin, fine, he has to graduate and maybe make us all true form gear for us as he called his your reforged set. All 5 smile and agree and go to bed or whatever they need to do. I sat at my desk in Hero Homeroom and played with some hunk of junk I found on my way here. It was an odd wooden box with very ancient circuitry. I eventually fixed it the best I could but it still didn't work. No sounds, clicking, nothing. After a while I jokingly made waves of energy with my hand. The energy made the device create an odd noise, making everyone cover their ears. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Just glad I kinda figured out what it is. I begin to put it in my duffel bag only for music to start playing from it, making everyone stare at me. This is not my doing. I teleport it and myself to the yard outside of the school and prepare to destroy it. Smoke and shadow started to leak out of it before it formed into a person. Their hair and outfit was red, they had mini antlers and deer ears, and a weird microphone staff thing. Musical notes: you're never fully dressed without a smile. Musical notes: it's been so long since a radio worked. Who fixed or built one? I form fire over my hands. I did. Now answer my questions. Who are you, what's your quirk, and what's a radio? The last question seemed to hit him hard as he dropped his microphone staff, whatever it is. You don't know what a radio is? I shook my head as I kept my fire burning. Radio is a device that uses radio waves to send sound over long distances. It is usually used for music or news. I tilted his head, so it's like the news runestones. This time he surprised me. What's a runestone? I sigh and form a table with some chairs. Maybe we should sit down before continuing. My name is Izuku Midoriya. He smiled a bit more. I'm Alastair the radio demon. He and I sat down before we continued our chat. Okay, I'll explain runestones after you tell me your quirk. I'm guessing something to do with shadows and smoke. He shook his head. I don't know what you mean by quirk. I have the power of voodoo from when I lived. When I died it became part of me and I became an overlord of hell. I was a serial killer who broadcasted my victims' screams over the radio. I did and do that in both my life and my life in hell. I poured him some tea as he explained it. I'm guessing you're from before the change. Centuries ago some idiot messed with dark magic, causing monsters to form all over the world and reset our technology. We had to take a different path as we gained magic and quirks in exchange for a harder world. Quirks are basically superpowers that people can get. Elves and dwarves now exist. We do have rankings for awakenings too. Alastair took a sip of tea. Quite interesting. What is your ranking in quirk then? I smiled and summoned some berries. I'm quirkless. I am a dwarf-elf hybrid due to my awakening, and my magic is nearly limitless. Anything you'd like to eat as we talk? He nodded. I am a cannibal and a deer-type demon. I nod and summon some cooked mutant deer jerky. Unfortunately we don't have the deer you used to, but I have BLD horn deer. Their horns and hooves are made of crystallized BLD. I hand him the antlers and hooves from the one I turned into jerky. You can keep them and use them to add to your staff, cane, microphone thing. He looked them over in a bit of curiosity. Is the world filled with creatures like this? I nodded as I eat some jerky, covered unfortunately. According to the few able to fly and cast invisibility magic, 95% of land is home to the beasts, 2% for us people, and the last 3% is unfortunately too radioactive to be usable by anything. I show how our world is a Pangea again thanks to the change and show off the areas known forts are and areas people must avoid. We talked for a while before he gave me a weird card. Though hell has been getting a lot less sinners thanks to the change, if you end up there just give me a call or just go to the Has-Been Hotel. Also remember, you're never fully dressed without a smile. With that he turned into shadow and smoke before going back into the radio and vanishing. I looked at the card and pocketed it. After cleaning up the small mess we made I returned to class and sat down mulling over what I was told. Midoriya, what was that device and why did it smoke? I shook my head to focus. Sorry Aizawa-sensei. It was a device called a radio which used a lost technology called radio waves to send music and news all over the world. It was smoking because a sinner known as the radio demon used it to see why they haven't been used in centuries. People thought I was lying but I didn't correct them. My mind was too wrapped around the fact that hell exists, the number of new sinners have lessened since the change, and heaven is real too. Does that mean heaven is getting a lot of new people or is there other things as well? This is just getting more and more interesting. I walked back into the school only for a portal to form above my desk and a way to me to fall onto my desk. We looked at each other before the guy slid off the desk and stood up. My ears went back and stiffened as I glared at him. "Who are you and why do our auras match?" I asked as I got prepared to use magic. The portal guy raised his hands. "Sorry, I didn't know what the quirk did," as I added it to my quirk archive. "I used it to escape an illegal arrest." I sniffed and looked him over. "You're not lying, so what's your name?" He sighed. "I'm guessing the same as yours, Izuku Midoriya." I groaned and sat on an energy chair. "I'm Izuku, Black Hole, Midoriya. The black hole is because of something I made." We look each other over and he shakes his head. "This is bugging me. Why can't I copy your mutation quirk?" I tilt my head then laugh. "Oh, I'm quirkless. I'm guessing your world didn't have the change or the BLD lights." Archive shook his head and I stretched. "Okay, idiot messed with magic, world now has monsters, and we gain blessing on the full moon after our 4th birthdays. People can gain magic, quirk, blacksmithing, become a dwarf, become an elf, or multiple of them. I'm a dwarf-elf hybrid with lots of magic." "Wait, back that up a bit. Magic exists and now you're a dwelf." I hiss at that. "I'm a hybrid, not a dwelf. Call me that again and I'll remove your quirk." Archive backed up some with his hands up. "Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. I just wanted to understand." I calmed down. "Sorry, that word was used as an insult for the past 12 years. He nodded and pulled a notebook from nowhere and wrote down what I've told him, making me see he didn't have a timer on his arm. "Wait, where's your timer? Is it on your other arm?" Archive looked at me stunned. "What do you mean by timer?" I showed him my arm and he quickly backed away again. "That's not natural. What the hell is going on there?" "Huh, that's interesting. You honestly don't use time as money." He shook his head, so I made him sit down. I walked to the board. "Who here, other than the other me whom I'm going to call Archive, don't know why we use time?" All but Bakugo raised their hands. I groaned. Of course I had to ask. "Anyways, 200 years ago scientists found a way to perfect our genes without making everyone the same. No more disease or dying of old age. Skip the dull SHT, freak." I picked up a piece of chalk and launched it at Bakugo using only my ear. This hits him right in the forehead, leaving a mark and painting his forehead white. As the governments realized people were living longer than 200 years easily and causing strain on resources, they decided to add in time. People were then given special implants at BRTH that grow with them and act as a wallet. "So that light means you have $10 million, Archive asked, a bit confused. "No, it means I have 1 year. It's frozen until the second we become 25 and then begins to tick down. We have it show years, months, days, hours, minutes, and then seconds. Anyways, once a person's timer hits 0 they die. Now it's not a giant deal since the world kinda reset, meaning we have a lot more resources so more people can stay alive longer. Well, except for Merlin, who's a true immortal. Her timer is already at 0 and she's still moving." Archive stayed quiet for a while before Bakugo spoke up. "To make it short, time is money and money is life." This resulted in another chalk piece to hit his forehead. Unfortunately, what the nuclear Pomeranian says is true. Be glad you don't live in the time of the timer in your reality. Anyways, you best go back. Don't need more of me here, also I don't want to be tempted to mimic your quirk. With that, Archive vanished with a quick wave just as school ended. What a unique day this was.